It's 3,686 pixels by 3,271 pixels.
Well, that's what I said, but if you zoom in 100% on RuneScape, you're zoomed in much more than you're zoomed in on this image. Plus, this image is missing some of the top of the wilderness and Bithorpe.
Oh, I found a different one that has the whole thing.
Oh. Well, generally speaking, I would say it's the size of about a state like California or something like that. But, you know, comparing these to some of these other smaller player-hosted maps, I mean, you can go on a Gary's Mod server that hosts 128 people, and these maps are just the size of a small town. So, do you think that the size of the world actually helps define what an MMO is? Do you think that how big the world is will make a difference in the player base?
Having a bigger world creates a necessity for having more players. Having a small world means you can have less players and make it feel like it's populated, I guess.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: if RuneScape's world was the size of the corner of the walls at the end of the wilderness, right before Borthorpe, you can see it on the map. It's almost a perfect square down to Lumbridge. So more of like this square shape from Borthorpe to Lumbridge, but they made it more servers. Would it have the same player base? If they can fit that content into that area.
If they were to take all the membership sort of content and restrict it to a small area, of course it wouldn't work out. The whole place would be clustered. But if you take a look at free-to-play worlds, where majority of the features in the game, majority of...
I think they're actually in that area I just described.
Oh, is it?
Everything
so just imagine a free-to-play world, then, at least what I remember to be
pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it extends a little bit further. I think it just goes down to Alcarid, but that's basically just a desert in a small town. No one really goes there that often outside the duel arena.
Exactly. So I mean, even with that restricted area, you still have people playing the game and not necessarily getting to the level cap or what have you for free-to-play members.
It does go on a little. It does go on a little bit more. I forgot you have the wilderness, but yeah, outside the wilderness and the area, that island that Port Sarim brings you to, I forget what it's called.
Can't remember. No idea.
I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about? That little island though.
Yeah.
With the pirate that you have to like sneak the rum back or whatever.
Oh, Karumja?
Karumja or something like that. Yeah. So that's generally the free-to-play world, and
I mean, I was a straight-up free-to-play player when I played. I never got membership for my accounts, and I was still, like, exploring. I mean, naturally, I explored most of the maps.
As soon as I switched to the members world, I, of course, loved the experience a lot more. Like, there was just so limited you could do as free-to-play, but you go on membership, and you have everything. You've got a whole entire new list of skills you unlock. You can do all sorts of different things when you become a member. But
I suppose you don't really realize that until you become a member, right? Like, I was a member, and I never felt like I
didn't realize I was missing out on so much until I became a member. I thought it was just a few simple quests or something.
Yeah.
But thinking about that, what if all the worlds were the size of that free-to-play area, even the members' worlds, but there were 4 different maps for different servers. Like, one server could be the Lumbridge. We'll just call them after the cities. Like, one map will be called Lumbridge. The next map will be called Varrock and Falador and stuff like that. But they're all different maps the size of the free-to-play area. Do you think that would make an impact on everything and on the player size?
Assuming you could port over your saves, then yeah. I mean, it wouldn't really make too much of a difference. It would be a little bit of a hassle just to hop servers, but I mean, it shouldn't be anything that wouldn't be too.
I've actually pondered that a lot. I was like thinking, what if Jagex made other maps for RuneScape that they could go on other servers and play on different maps and everything? I was actually wondering how that would affect their actual game itself, and I would actually like that, like not every server, but maybe like 4 different maps to play on. I thought it would be an interesting
when they were handling their combat rework, they would create an entirely different server where your saves wouldn't matter. I mean, naturally, the map was the same, the monsters were the same, it was the same game, except
I
whatever
remember
you
that.
did in that
Yeah, I
wouldn't
remember
be
that.
carried over.
All right.
And that isn't too big of a difference, but it led people to be more ambitious, and let people take greater risks, and to a certain extent, people enjoyed it because of that. They could lose their items and not really have to worry. So even though feature-wise it was the same game, it provided a different experience, and people still play that.
Robin just sent a picture in the chat. I forgot this person was even a person. He sent a picture of his Windows Live Messenger, and it says he has like a pending request, and then one person below that is Elysium. Elysium. I forgot Elysium. That name sounds really familiar. Oh, these are different groups. These are different groups. Okay, I don't know why that word sounds familiar though. Elysium.
Was that an Eclipse engine? Eclipse Elysium?
Yeah. I think it was. You're right. And he also has Myridge. He has player worlds in there. The Naruto realms. Random people. Wow. You know, I forgot some of these things were even things. It's been a long time. I can't believe I was banned from Eclipse today. It makes me really sad to look back on this stuff now.
It's no longer Eclipse.
Yeah, it really isn't. So, oh, by the way, the website me and Nick, you know him as Chief, are developing. Yeah. It's the user base that the community I've been talking about developing for my live stream is actually going. I'm actually going to be sending them to that community in specific. It's going to be full of chat rooms for different support, and it's not going to be limited to a specific engine. Though we are still going to be turning the Pokemon game into an engine later. That's not really based off Pokemon, but it just had like the necessities and everything. So for those of you guys wondering about when the community is going to be, we're actually starting on developing. We're actually going to start developing that community. I think he said Tuesday, and we have a pretty good idea of it. So anybody interested, we'll have that running soon. I'm trying to think of any other topics. I'm going to try to have this stream wrapped up in about 10 to 20 minutes. I'm not going to be streaming too much longer. I've got some things to do tomorrow. Okay, there was another thing I wanted to talk about. Player versus player. PvP combat, anything PvP, definitely adds competition to the game, but is that competition necessarily good? If you look at most of the PvP players from, we mentioned earlier, Counter-Strike and their rude behavior when they begin losing, is PvP necessarily a good thing for a community? And does PvP decline the image of the community? Does that make a difference with the community's image?
I mean, it varies depending on the player base, but to a certain extent, PvP is very necessary. I would argue for MMOs, largely because from the development standpoint, because it provides an endless feature, right? Like you can always get bored of fighting one boss. AI is never always fun to play against. It's not as satisfying as being able to say that you beat another player. And that's not necessarily like a pride thing, like you have to think that you're better than other people, but it's just satisfying knowing that your skill matched up against another human being that spent time learning and practicing, you beat that person. That's a satisfying feeling.
I understand where you're coming from that when you say endless possibilities. That player will have unknown ranks. That's like in RuneScape, you've got like all these different skills and everything. They're going to be at a different skill base that they base. They're going to have different strategies than these AIs, which have a limit of strategies because it's in their code that they can only do certain things. They can only go certain areas and they can only spawn at certain places. But these players can go anywhere and do anything.
But with the pride that comes from killing other players, you will have people who take that in the wrong way, and they tend to nurture and act like they are better than other people.
And you brought up bosses on that topic. Raids and everything, working with players actually, I believe, puts a good influence. When I'm working with a clan or a group of people or a guild, when you go into MMOs and you're working together to beat bosses, that's an entirely new experience. You experience, I think I just had the call, oh no, it was dropped on the Rats guy. You still there, Matt?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, it just dropped on the other guy then. when you go into guilds, you're doing teamwork, and it feels good. It feels like you're actually building a strong connection with these people, as if you know them in real life. When you start learning how they play and everything like that, you start learning their strategies. That's some serious socializing when you work with a group, and I think that's probably one of the best parts about social gaming is the teamwork.
For sure, that's why League thrives so much. I tried to get into Dota in 2009 or so, 2010, something far back like that, and maybe it was 2012. I really don't remember. It was about within the past 5 years, and I just didn't get into it largely because I was the only person I knew who played it, and I didn't want to try PvP because they were all very good players, and as a result, I quit. But then Agoraphobic, who most of you guys know, introduced me to League of Legends, and he played with me, and he showed me how to play. And that's why I enjoy it so much today, is because you can play with friends. So, yeah, no, communication with other people and teamwork is very important for MMOs, I would think.
Um, yeah, and even saying that in Counter Strike, the first-person shooter esport, um, I used to have a team that I played with until we had some conflict in the team. One person was dating another person, and they broke up, and hell broke loose. But outside that, when we worked together, we had a really good team, and we'd be winning some good games. And I'd learn their gameplay. We'd be able to communicate. And when the team broke up, now I have to do matchups with random people that I have no idea how they play. So sometimes I don't even know. I could go into a game with my team, and I'd feel pretty confident, but I'd go do random matchups with people I don't even know. I have no idea how that gameplay is going to be. I could end up with a kid, someone who's intoxicated and just wanting to play games. You never really know with these kind of things. So, building a team and building trust with other players in order to communicate in-game with is actually, it goes beyond just the social level, but you're actually learning how they play their game and how you can benefit from that.
I actually, on that note, I kind of want to talk about DayZ, because when you have games like League of Legends, you have organized teamwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're playing a game like DayZ, there aren't any specific teams. There's no protection.
True like that.
You're placing trust into the people that when you formulate a team, they won't kill you. And many betrayals actually happen.
And that happens in H1Z1 a lot too. I guess would be DayZ's alternative that I can talk about, since I've actually played H1Z1 for a little bit when it came out. You'd go to random people. You don't know who you can trust. You have to talk to them. You have to convince them, hey, do you know where to get this stuff? Have you already raided these places and stuff like that? Or the player can just shoot you on sight, and you never know. Players can run from each other. You'd lose all your stuff. It's about running into the right people at the right times and seeing whether you can trust them throughout the game or not. And usually if you trust them, you add a new friend on Steam. You're like, oh, this person's cool to play with. We should meet up again sometime, and you guys usually do. So you're actually not only building trust in game and learning how to trust people, but on a social level, you're making new friends and everything too. You're learning to socialize on these online games.
Right. And I suppose there's new elements of fun, because you can always, because there are no real ramifications beyond legal matters. You can pretend to be whoever you want to be. You can try out different things without having to worry. I mean, if I want to hang out with my friends and try and be more assertive or something like that, and then I have to really worry about how they'll perceive me afterwards.
Right.
So when you have social interactions online, you can be whoever. You can try out new things. You can grow, I suppose, in that respect.
I guess in what, like in an example of that, you could be rather experimenting social skills and stuff like that, seeing if I go into this random group of people and I act like a total dick, are they gonna think I'm funny, or are they gonna hate me? Should I act cool? Should I just be myself? Stuff like that. You're experimenting with your social behavior, and sometimes people like it, sometimes they don't, and you can actually apply that to the real world. It's almost like you're practicing socializing on these online games.
Well, if you really want to talk about Sekiro, I guess we can.
I knew you were gonna bring him up again. But yeah, you can. I guess you're experimenting with your social levels and seeing what social skills you can apply in real life. And a lot of people think that online games and socializing online, social media and stuff like that is ruining social people in general. But honestly, the only thing I'm seen ruined is that people will go out in public and they'll be spending their lives on their cell phones and stuff like that instead of socializing in person. But outside that, these online socializing is actually helping you as a person understand what sort of things you should do in public. Like, you can socialize with different people in different ways using what you learn online. So I don't necessarily think it's 100% cancer. I just think that using social media and whatnot while you're out in public is what's actually killing it, not the media itself.
Right. But I mean, going back to this whole protection, layer of protection that is applied to having an online persona, you have tons of problems when you have underage children that haven't fully developed. Not that they can't do this sort of thing online, but when they take on certain personas that degrade them as a person, you have these people who act all big and tough and rude, especially. Like everyone's mother has been violated, as we all know, last night. This has become an internet thing, right? And whether or not it's a joke, it's fine. But you do have people who do get enraged very easily.
I love how you explain that right there.
Sorry?
I loved how you explained that right there. Everybody's mother's been violated online. But
last night specifically,
yeah, in bed last night. Yeah, he brings up a great point there that that it could also be cancerous. You know, you could adapt personalities and social skills that you don't need to be bringing into real world conversation, like saying like I screwed your mom last night, or that's what your mom said to me last night in bed, or whatever. Online, you can't say that shit to your boss. You can say that shit to your friends online, and it's funny. You say that shit to your friends in face. It's a little bit different. When you say that shit to your boss, it gets on a whole different level. You just messed up right there. So yeah. It could also bring a cancerous experience into society itself. So yeah, you really got to look at that as well. Let's see. Now, back in the day, even when video games were not online so much, if you look at, the NES was still multiplayer. You had 2-player experiences, and you'd invite, like, I can remember, if you had Pokemon Red for the Game Boy, you had a best friend who had Pokemon Blue. And then Pokemon Yellow came out, and we all hated that kid, but, but even so, like, before online gaming was a thing, multiplayer gaming was still pretty big, and it was still influencing social experiences. You know, you go out, you have something to talk about when you can talk to people about Pokemon Blue, and you have Pokemon Red, you want to trade someone's Bulbasaur for their level 100 Charizard, and you're obviously the retarded kid for wanting to do that. But, yeah, even back then, before online gaming was a thing, it still influenced society.
Yeah, LAN networking, games, or local co-op, I suppose, as you would properly label them, I think always proves to be a positive experience, provided you don't get too headstrong into the game.
Oh, for sure.
Mainly because you are pretty much physically directly next to the person that you're playing with, and you don't have that extra layer of security. You're just two people engaging as you would in real life, just inside a video game.
I want to add on that. Now you mentioned LAN gaming. Now if you're doing LAN gaming at home, it's always a great experience because you're with people you know. But if you go to one of these, there was a place that opened up. They recently closed actually within their first 2 years of opening. It was called Gamer Underground Alley. That was what it was called. It was called Underground Alley in my town, and it was this. Their idea was to open up a LAN gaming cafe, I guess you would say, where they had computers just set up all over this cafe, Xbox 360s, PS3s, everything that was out at the time. And you choose your game, you grabbed a friend, you went in there, you paid a small fee, and you could spend the night playing games till like 4 a.m. when they closed or something like that. Now, if you're with the wrong crowd in there, or someone else walks in because there was also pool in there and stuff like that, if someone wanted to play pool, you're getting a negative influence from certain people that don't really make you feel comfortable because you're in with these gamer groups or stuff like that, and gaming sometimes doesn't really have a positive vibe from some people who are far too into sports or whatever, or have a negative idea on gamers in general with these online gamings. And the reason why this place actually closed was they attracted a bad crowd of people. They attracted very rude, delinquent kids between the ages of, I would like to say, 14 to 17. These kids were doing all sorts of things. They would stand outside and they'd smoke underage. They'd sneak in without paying. They'd they basically just ruined the whole gaming experience for everyone because the wrong kind of crowd was coming into something that was ideally meant for gamers, and that can kind of give a bad social experience in the real world outside LAN gaming at home with a crowd that you're familiar with.
Yeah, well, I suppose when you have these kinds of I think it's more the age that it was brought in more so than the concept. Like if you were to open this up, I don't know, 20 years ago, if you were to have this sort of thing 20 years ago, I mean, I wasn't alive 20 years ago.
I got that. I was just born.
Yeah.
I would have been 7 months old 20 years ago.
I mean, I don't think it would have gotten these sort of delinquents.
Yeah,
or at least to the extent that it happened.
Actually, and it's not that they would have; they didn't. If you look at it, LAN gaming cafes are pretty much the same concept as arcades are.
Right.
If you look back at quarter arcades, man, occasionally you'd have. Like in movies, you'd have cheesy movies where kids were skipping school to go to the arcade or whatever. And, you'd get those occasional, little mishaps or stuff like that. But honestly, that was kind of bullshit. There was no one actually skipping school to go to the arcades in specific. If kids were skipping school, it was to hang out with their friends. So it wasn't necessarily the arcades having a bad influence on them. But, people at arcades, you go to an arcade, you'd be playing Dance Dance Revolution. You're playing Dance Dance Revolution with new people. You're playing, I see some arcades today that are the lucky ones that are still able to survive. I think there's a place called the Suncoast Arcade in Miami, Florida, which I went to a couple summers ago. I think it was owned by Sega itself. The Suncoast Arcade was this 2-story arcade full of Sega games. You had Dance Dance Revolution, Guitar Hero, and all that. You're having a social experience and a physical experience as well with other people inside this giant arcade, which played music. It had a little dance floor and everything like that. Games and everything. You were getting a huge social experience, and that was more of a positive influence than these LAN arcade social cafes are having these days.
Yeah, I mean, this is just speculation, but what I figure is that because MMORPG gaming was already introduced for at least 5 years or even 10 years prior. The association between the security of having an online profile and these types of games. So I think that would only help attract the negative users, I guess. I mean, again, this is just speculation, probably not accurate, but just what I figure when you have a user base that is that can be very negative. Associated with some types of games, like you mentioned, Gary's Mod, also League. And then having these game arcades where you would have local access network games, I mean, they would only attract some of those crowds that, could provide a negative experience to other people there.
Okay, so I just looked up the arcade that I was talking about in Miami, Florida. I think it was renamed and bought out by someone else. It's now called Arcade Odyssey, it looks like. I could not find the Suncoast Gaming Arcade that I found when I went to Miami. I think it was actually when I was 12 years old. No, I had to be able to order, I think I was 14 or 15 at the time. But they have a mass amount of games, and if you're looking here, they do all sorts of kind of events. They do fundraisers, they do cosplay events, it looks like. They even have a high score map. Well, they tried to do one. It looks like their database tables failed. But so they're still running competition inside these arcades. So even if you're playing games in public facilities such as arcades and stuff like that, these social experiences are almost just like the online ones that you're getting, only in person. You're having the same competition and everything for scorers and experiences. The only difference is you're meeting these people in person, and but I would feel like the experience would be better in person over these MMOs and everything like that. But I'm looking at this stuff, and they do a lot of events. I mean, everything from cosplay, movies. It looks like. Fundraisers, all sorts of different kinds of things. It actually looks pretty fun. I would love to go there again, actually. But so the social experience in gaming extends outside of online games itself, And that's not the only thing you look at. And, you know, it has a really good influence on society. These social games have a really good reputation in person.
Right.
And, you know, these arcades were absolutely amazing. This particular arcade that I was thinking of, if this is it, I believe they renamed it, was 3 stories tall. Sorry, they had 3 stories, but the 3rd story was rather small. It was more of a balcony area. It was 3 stories tall. They had a they had like a grill or whatever, kind of like in Dave and Buster's. There were thousands of arcade machines all over the place. Everything from Mappy and Pac-Man all the way to some modern day shooter games. They actually have a list of everything they have here. There's over 131 different arcade games on this list right here, and I don't think this is it because there were a lot more from what I remember. And they did this happy hour thing where you bought a card and you can go in and you can play as many games as long as they didn't give you a prize. You can play as many games as you wanted. And, you know, it has a really good positive influence. So, I think actually if they were to bring arcades back as popular as they were back in the late 90s or whatever, I have a pretty good feeling that they would have a strong standing chance as long as they'd be made right. And a lot of people doubt that arcades are dead because nobody wants to put quarters into machines anymore, but that's not necessarily true. The arcades were never about putting quarters into machines and getting the top score and playing the games. They were about the social experience themselves.
Right, right. I mean, with arcades, you also had the thing of accessibility. I mean, not everyone would have arcade games at home. At least this is older, I suppose, but I'm just thinking that they wouldn't be as popular as they would be, I don't know, 30 or 40 years ago, mainly because people can make their own little gaming environments at home with friends, right?
True, and arcade machines can't handle the same kind of graphics that our consoles and computers can. But, you know, while that's true, I would like to. You're still getting, whether it's online gaming or not, you're still not getting the same social experience. I would love the thrill of arcade games and talking to people in person. And, you know, I even consider laser tag to be kind of like it's not necessarily a video game, but you know, it still kind of has that same feel that arcades are getting you from, and they're in a lot of arcades. Is laser tag also has a pretty big gaming experience. It goes outside of just gaming on the computer or consoles. The social experience in gaming goes all over.
Right.
And I would actually prefer the experience of gaming in public, but you know, while that's true, I can't play the same kind of competitive matches online as I like to play, and the same shooters and everything, standing up in an arcade or whatever. I prefer it at home. I really would prefer those kind of games at home, but there are times where I wish I could just, you know, game with other people, have like a LAN party at my house, which I haven't had in a while. I guess you can expand on the social setup in gaming in general between LAN, online, arcades. I guess you would call that public gaming, is what I would use to describe that. So, you know, there's a lot of experience in there. So I'd like to say this is basically concluding our subjects for today. I'm going to try to close up the stream now. We've been streaming for almost 2 hours now, yeah. So, I'd like to thank Matt for showing up, John for showing up a little bit, I don't know where he went. I'd like to thank Robin for showing up in the stream, that was actually really motivating. Thank you so much for showing up, Robin, and Evan too, all you guys. So, I thank you so much for joining the stream, and I hope you guys can tune in last time. If you guys haven't hit that follow button, I'd really appreciate if you hit that now. Thank you so much. I'll catch you guys, I don't exactly have a streaming schedule, but I'm going to be posting the streaming schedule later on this week. I'm going to make a temporary schedule. I'm going to have it published below in the description. I'm going to try to stream again Thursday. I don't think I work Thursday, so I'm going to try to stream back on the game development itself Thursday for developing our Nintendo games and everything like that. So thank you so much for joining the stream. I love you guys. You guys have a great night.